Now let's begin on this rather sad note. A 6-year-old boy has been allegedly electrocuted at Awomaso, a suburb of Kumasi. Maxwell Kwekuteria is said to have been electrocuted while playing with his friends with the base of a metal pole of an outdoor television antenna connected to naked live electrical cables. He was pronounced dead on arrival at the Kumasi South Hospital. Now, this is the second time in less than a month parents have lost 2 children under strange circumstances in that area. My colleague Ohim Interior has more in the following report.
This is the second time in 1 month that the Akons have lost 2 sons in bizarre circumstances. Coincidentally, all the 2 children were born in April. The couple's 2-week-old son was the first to die on April 27, 2020.
Police were be. Nti wa be na wo bohwe akura no se dem de yankon kohwe baby a akura no eyi. Nti yakoe na dadi po be TV po we bi nketwa na odesi po isi ho na woda atwuru chan. Na wo se yi light ni bi wa atugu chance no do. Nti be ndem de po na atwuru chance no. Chance na abeka dadi no. Ma akura no kukuso ma o shocking my nti yakwa na munyo ko electrician nti andin kan the tester okokohwe dad ni jewo ma nti okwa ni jewo mso ampa.
The demise of Maxwell has not only brought untold grief on the parents but also on the entire Angomaso community. His 34-year-old father, Kofi Akon, a carpenter by profession, broke down as he narrates the incident.
Akrani fimu 27th last month. Until friends say 1 month and no way to wait him. Hey yo, pa there upgrading canafim. Anupodi say wait him crapa and yahi. No way now I don't know if we can until be no so.
Meanwhile, police at Domiabra have launched investigations into the death of the boy as the body is deposited at the morgue pending autopsy. From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Ohim Interior reporting.
I will stay with children, but still on a rather sad note. The Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit of the Ghana Police Service in the Western Region is demanding the birth certificate of a 14-year-old girl who has been allegedly defiled before the perpetrators are officially charged. The victim, whose name has been withheld, says she was sexually assaulted for 3 days by 3 young men before being released to go home. Her family says police investigators want them to settle the matter out of court, but DOSU in the region says the suspect will only be charged when the certificate authenticating the victim's age is produced. We'll hear from DOSU shortly, but first here's a report filed by JoyNews in Athalia Kwansa and Henry Kwesibedu.
On the evening of May 19, 2020, 14-year-old Abba, not her real name, was sent out on an errand by her mother. Abba only came home 3 days later, bleeding profusely from her vagina. Abba says she had been defiled by 3 young men during those days. The Class 6 pupil was allegedly lured by the 3 men who gave her an energy drink laced with a substance that made her dizzy.
One of the perpetrators is a friend. He lured me to his house and gave me a bottle of energy drink. When I took it, I became extremely dizzy and woke up days after, bleeding profusely from my vagina. I didn't see or feel anything at all.
After returning home, Abba spent 4 days at the hospital. The Ahanta West police arrested the perpetrators. They have since been released, with the police insisting the case be settled out of court, the family claims. Abba's father, Richard Kwaku, disagrees.
case in the police station.
My daughter was raped by 3 young men. After we reported the incident to the police, the boys were arrested as my daughter was also admitted for 5 days at a health facility in the community. I was later told the young men have been released and the police are in settlement. Please, I disagree.
Mr. Kweku wants the suspects prosecuted.
This was on my blind side. We want the law to take its full course. I suspect the families of the perpetrators have given the police some money.
The 14-year-old victim, who was discharged from hospital, is currently responding to treatment at home.
And we'll also hear from the director of DOSU, Frank Nana Amweni, who says the suspect will be put before court after verifying the girl's age.
There is this 14-year-old girl that they brought to my unit as having been alleged been defied by 3 boys. This was the allegation that came. So we started investigations and we got to know that among the 3 boys, there is one 13-year-old boy who had the sexual intercourse with the child. It was on Friday they came. After taking our statements whatsoever, we released the child and then the other 2 boys to their parents to produce them on Tuesday. Monday being holiday, we will not be in office, so they should come on Tuesday. Tuesday they came. And then we sat on the issue. The next line we need to tow. On the Tuesday, that was yesterday, the investigator went to the scene of crime with them to find out things for himself. On their return, we met again in my office, and then the next line to tow was them to try to get us birth certificate or baptism certificate or even a weighing card, just to tell us the age of the victim, so that from there we can go on with the processes of our documents and then we go to court.
Now let's go into the phone lines now and speak to the Executive Director of Child Rights International, Brighter Pia. Thank you very much, Mr. Pia, for joining us here on Newsdesk. First, your thoughts on this very worrying story we're getting from the Western region.
Well, it's very disturbing in the sense that consistently we see abuse against children, and the responsive nature has always been distorted. We don't have any uniform response in dealing with this matter. Therefore, people use their own discretion to exercise in terms of how they want to go about the matter. And that, for me, is a worrying part of the whole thing that we should be concerned about. Otherwise, there's no where their children will have a voice that represents them. And that is something that, as a nation, we need to be very careful about. And it's a worrying situation to me.
Quite worrying because you have the police allegedly insisting that this is settled out of court.
Yeah, that is where the issue is, because once you are called as a child, you'd have the backing of the state in terms of your protection, and that is 100%. And that right is not negotiable. And once a child makes a statement about a person, the system is expected to act in a manner that the child has reported it. And it is as a result of that investigation is carried out to be able to ascertain whether or not it happened. But if right at the entry point, the police are using their discretion to determine how the case should proceed, then that is where the issue is. Because once a child walks up to you to report a matter, it is the responsibility of the gatekeeper, in this case, the police officers, to act according to what the child has reported. It is to the court to determine otherwise, not for the police to determine the birth certificate of the child, not for the police to even come to the conclusion that two people were not involved. It is not their business to do that. They are expected to follow a rule. A child has come to report a matter to a statement has been taken, an allegation has been made against 3 people. If they did not partake in it, it is not a job of the police to determine whether those people they took part or not. It is a decision of the court to determine that. And who says that when it comes to determination of age, it is only restricted to a birth certificate and a baptismal certificate? Certainly not. So far as a child is concerned, the law says that there are other alternative systems that we can use in determining the age of the child. So you cannot, as a police officer, determine on your own how the whole matter should proceed. And that is what is worrying me, because we expect that as gatekeepers, they will strictly follow the rules of engagement so far as issues of children are concerned. Then we protect their interest from the beginning, from the onset. But if some of these things are coming out, then you realize that we are gradually washing away evidence. We are washing away things that can easily help us to come to the conclusion. You have allowed these 2 boys to go. I am not in a position to say whether or not they participated in the process. But once the child has reported the matter to the police, you need to take the due process to protect the best interest of the child in this matter. So just assuming that you have allowed them to go home, if there is any evidence at all to take, how are you as a police institution be able to get at least evidence that will support about 60% of the situation? So these are things that, for me, as a nation, we should be we have to be worried about it, because if we are allowing some of these things to go, then I can tell you, children have a voice in this country, and things will continue to happen to them as a witnesses.
In cases like this, what would be the ideal way of determining or verifying the age of the victim in such a situation?
Of course, there are medical ways that the law prescribes that we can do that. And even with that, you can even use the class of the child to even determine the age. You know, these are all things that would give you a fair idea as to how to proceed with the matter. But it's not even the business of a police officer to request for all those things. It is for a court of competent jurisdiction to determine whether or not the child who claims that to be 13 or whatsoever, it is indeed the truth. It is not for the police to do that. If I walk to the police office and I say that I'm 20 years, and for that matter, I want the case to be prosecuted, it is not your business to ascertain my age before you even proceed with the case, because even that statement alone is enough for the court to depend on it to pass judgment in my favor or not, or to quash the case and all that. So we have to be very careful so that we don't wash away hard evidence that will support in terms of the things that we do to protect the best interest of children.
Usually in such cases, you find that the parents are usually very deprived or poor, relatively, living in very deprived areas. A lot of the time, they are not really literate and so do not even know what to do. What should the parents be doing at this point whilst they wait for DOSU to verify the age of the little girl?
Yeah, for the verification of age, as I've mentioned, yes, you go to the rural communities, you realize that a lot of them do not have birth certificates or the baptismal certificate. But the matter concerning the child, you are not limited in terms of how to ascertain the age. And I'm saying that medically, you can resort to that. So
and I just wanted to know what the parents should be doing, because you talk about washing away evidence. Around this time, what can they do whilst they wait for that verification process?
Yeah, well, for me, if the parents are able to still stick to the information that they have and what they witnessed and what has been reported to them by the child, I think that they should still stick to it. And then also desist from having any negotiation whatsoever with any person in terms of settling the matter out of court, because it is not even within the power of parents to even determine that they want to settle the matter out of court. That alone can also constitute a criminal act against the child. So I will still insist that they should do what is due so that the law can protect the interests of the child.
Should the police officers be taken on for allegedly insisting that the matter be settled out of court if indeed that is proven?
Of course, defilement cases and the police, they know better. So I don't think that a police officer would say that the matter of defilement should be settled out of court. And if it is, it's something that we can establish. Then of think that the police service must deal with the matter in a manner that it deserves, so that institutions that are mandated to protect the interests of children will be clean enough to do so.
Mr. Pia, thank you very much for your time here on NewsDesk. We'll be following up on this. We'll get back to the police to find out where they are on this verification issue, but also what actions they are taking against the police officers who have been who have been indicted, so to speak, in this issue, insisting that the matter be settled out of court, whether or not that has even been verified in the first place. And that's Brighter Pia. He's the executive director of Child Rights International. Let's do some politics now. The leadership of the opposition NDC is soon expected to announce a decision on whether to participate or boycott the voter registration exercise to be conducted by the Electoral Commission. NDC Member of Parliament for Busa South, Dr. Clement Park, in an interaction with Roland Walker on the AM show, said the leadership's decision and announcement will determine the direction their colleague MPs, the regional and constituency leaders, will take on what has become a controversial voter registration exercise for the NDC. Now, his arguments were countered by the MP for Impreso, Seth Echampom, who was also on the show.
You also are going to engage in a vigorous public education to let the people of Ghana, the people who own this country, understand the trajectory and the dangers that portends should the Electoral Commission maintain its adamance in listening to what many would describe as commonsensical reasoning at such a time.
Fine, and if you do that, what will happen?
Well,
will you tell your sympathizers, supporters, and members not to go register?
There would be a formal engagement with the media where the party will present its position on the basis of recent developments coming out of yesterday's questionable IPAC meeting.
I do understand. Will you tell your sympathizers, your supporters, members not to go register if this still goes ahead? And it will go ahead.
Leadership will make that known. We will make a decision and we will communicate it. But whatever it is, our position remains that the new register is needless. It is not justified. And that the processes by which the Electoral Commission intends to compile a new register will disenfranchise many millions of Ghanaians.
Let me be a problem in this country. Roland, how don't you know me as a Ghanaian? Don't you know me as a Ghanaian?
Me knowing you is not a guarantee that you will have your name in the register. That's the point.
Beautiful. Knowing me, you know my age. Is my age within the bracket so prescribed by the Electoral Commission?
Are you saying that I can then go guarantee for you?
I'm asking simple questions about you. If you're asking me to demonstrate identity, I know Clement. He's a typical Ghanaian coming from Ghana. Why should I dispute Clement when it's going to be registered?
Yes, but for this very exercise,
right,
for me to be able to guarantee for you and ascertain that because I know you, I know your age, you're a Ghanaian, you live in here in specific areas, I should be a holder of a passport or an NIA card.
Yes.
And I may not have any.
Yes, we are using the taxpayers' money to register Ghanaians through NIA. It is not anybody's money, and it is the property of Ghana. And we think it's a very useful property. We've had disputes upon disputes, not necessarily over a conversation like this that we're having. Technical ones, it has gone to court. There's been issues. That's the essence of us ensuring that we invest in NIA so that we have a simple common identity for every Ghanaian. And then the features NIA is capturing, it's a bit laborious. And it's not so easy for anybody to just break in and destroy. So I think it was well thought through. We should respect the systems we are developing. That is the only way this country can mature. That is the only way we can deepen the dispensation we're in, the democracy. And so I would always encourage all of us that when people are allowed in constitutionally created rooms to live in, and we use our sweat to pay them, and they are doing the right thing. Let's support them to move on.
Now, MP for Second D, Andrew Kofi Ejapa-Mensah, says the minority's call for Parliament to be suspended is aimed at preventing the maturity of the EC's constitutional instrument for the compilation of a new voters register. The NDC MPs called for the closure of the House following reports that 2 legislators and 13 staff have tested positive for COVID-19. They contend that keeping the House in session, especially when there's no urgent business, is unduly endangering the lives of MPs and their constituents. Now, speaking with Daniel Dazi on Prime Morning on the Joy Prime channel, the Second D MP said the NDC MP's proposal is politically motivated and that adequate safety measures have been instituted to prevent the spread of coronavirus in the House.
Well, who determines the urgency of business? Parliament has 3 meetings in every session. A session is 1 calendar year. And within that session, we are mandated to attend 3 meetings. We've done the first meeting for the year. We have gone on recess, come back to do the second meeting. When the second meeting schedule is over, we'll go back for another recess and come back and do the 3rd meeting. And so every meeting has its own agenda and program that has been tabled. And so to suggest that some of the items that have been scheduled for the meeting is not urgent, I fail to see how they can arrive at their conclusion. Look, let's call a spade a spade. Yes, we are not in normal times. Yes, we all know that if you do not comply with the safety protocols that have been laid out, chances of you contracting the virus is high. But of course, I heard him say that, look, if he goes to sit in the chamber, chairs have not been sanitized, vote committee meetings, people touch tables and all that. That is why we are all being enjoined to use hand sanitizers as much as possible if we are unable to wash our hands. And so I expect that as a member of Parliament who is very much abreast with the safety protocols that have been outlaid, he would at all times be using the sanitizer to ensure that we do not contact the virus and infect others. You see, our friends on the NDC side are simply looking for the CI that the Electoral Commission has made before Parliament, not to mature. And so they should be bold and tell Ghanaians that that is the reason for the call, not for Parliament to be suspended and all that.
But the MP for Kumbungu Ras Mubarak, however, believes Parliament sitting in these times may endanger the lives of MP staff as well as their constituents. Now, according to him, the maturity of the EC's CI currently before Parliament cannot be more important than the lives of the 275 members of Parliament, the over 1,000 staff, and the health and safety of the people of Ghana.
A lot of the business of the House could wait. Currently, as it is, could wait a week or 2. But coming to the substantive issue of the voter register, why would you want to alienate a Ghanaian who is born in Ghana and who, by virtue of birth in Ghana, is entitled to have a voter ID card after attaining the age of 18 or above? Why would you want to exclude holders of birth certificates as true Ghanaians? Why would you want to impugn the integrity of the birth and death registry by saying that you cannot authenticate the birth certificates that are in circulation? Clearly, you are indicting another agency of state without proof. His point was completely mute. Insofar as we had in our laws, what you call dual nationality laws in existence. People could actually be on the American voter register and still be on the Ghanaian voter register. Now, again, they say they are taking out driver's license. Because you see, it's not every Ghanaian who has had access to the NIA registration. It's not every Ghanaian who holds a passport. My kids hold Ghanaian passports, okay? So even if you add the number of kids who have...
About 2 million. 2 million.
No, less than 2 million. Less than 2 million.
It's just hovering just around that.
Less than 2 million. So even if you were to say all of them are adults, right? How many Ghanaians are eligible to register and actually vote, as compared to the number of people or persons who hold Ghana cards and passports?
So we are disenfranchising Ghana.
You are actually suppressing. This is a classic example of voter suppression.
Let's do some more politics. 4 persons believed to be supporters of the NPP and NDC parliamentary candidate in Winneba are injured following a clash yesterday. 4 persons are believed to be supporters of the governing NPP. Of course, they sustained various degrees of injury after a clash between NPP and NDC supporters there. The 2 groups, led by the candidates, met in court after the incumbent, that's Alexander Afenyomakin, sued NDC candidate James Kofi Annan for defamation. Here's an eyewitness account of the incident.
I just saw the MP entering the court's premises, and I saw some NDC guy. Because once I noticed they are NDC people, I saw one guy with the NDC muffler on his neck. Other one was wearing NDC cap. One guy was also wearing NDC nose mask. So they were just rushing the MP. I didn't know because they were holding chain. 3 of them were also holding cutlasses, well sharp. And one guy was also saying, he's the one, he has just arrived. Go to him. He's the one causing all problems in Winneba. So one guy who I normally see with the MP is a security guard. So his boss is in. He has to go there to protect his boss. And I saw the NDC people, they just rushed on him. One guy took the cutlass, he even cut the toe, saying, we are going to injure you. We are going to injure you so that you stop following the MP. So I was wondering, court premises causing this violence. All of a sudden, one guy used the chain to smash the guy's back. So another guy wanted to use the stick to hit him. So the other guys rushed there to protect their brother. I saw blood coming out of his leg. So they have to rush him to the hospital, and later on I just left the scene.
So what's your name?
My name is Ahmed Yusuf Jibril.
So we can now hear from the NDC constituency chairman for the area. He gives us his own account of what happened.
Members of NDC and 1 policewoman was injured. Now, per my instructions and then per the information that we had, the police woman is at the municipal hospital responding to treatment. The other 2 colleagues, who are NDC members, were sent to Otu Memorial Hospital, and they are also there receiving treatment. We just want to draw the attention of IGP and other security agents, being National Security or BNI. They should throw more light or turn their eyes to Ifutu.
Well, we can also hear from an NPP supporter who got injured at that very incident we reported.
Enemy 9, enemy sa, enemy confused, enemy prayer. Number 1 opinion, my brother friend say, and the chief, court you want to umbrella, and me call no. The court to and say, my boss, we free court inside, over. Also, not knowing, say, and there any birthday. Until honor or mobile, name say, Kofobi, or my ration. To me, 10 years and a moon, Kofobi say, a boocher NDC knows my CB and an NDC t-shirt. Or my ration, mukte injure any chill, nade. Until yes, I know, Miss Mijination, and me fast, me dear America, me beno. To me ben moves about 20 me try to me push me boss no wa konechi to konechi to me turning the moves almost to asham so na ba ko de wire e de bomb me nechi na ba ko so de sekai e cha me say de bia me na me di me boss na nyimiti mo be pra me me di na chi bi no mo de bomb me ti on gidi gidi ba o me brothers na ni e ba so the brother e friend Mudasir Ali
So essentially, he said that he was attacked by supporters of the NDC because of his allegiance to the party, and also he's seen as one of those who is often in the company of the Member of Parliament for the area. You're taking a break here on News Desk. When we return, we'll bring you more stories from the Immigration Service and also in business. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on News Desk. Now, 3 Nigerians have been arrested for robbery and illegal entry into the country by personnel of the Sugakope Inland Immigration Checkpoint of the Ghana Immigration Service. Emmanuel Christopher Chukuma Onyaku and Sylvia Jamaho entered the country with the assistance of some Togolese through an unapproved route at the eastern frontier. Chief Superintendent of Immigration Shadrach Asangokwa said an accomplice of one of the suspects attempted bribing the officers with $5,000 to enable her release. Director of Public Affairs at the Ghana Immigration Service, Michael Amwako, joins us via Zoom with more on this. Mr. Mwakwata, thank you very much for your time here on News Desk. We are back at the issue of bribing again, bribing your men. Fortunately, this time we are told once again that they resisted the bribe. What is the latest on this case?
Yes, thank you. As you rightly said or read from our press release, these 3 Nigerians who entered illegally were intercepted at the inland checkpoint, and while they were being processed to be handed over to the sector command, a gentleman comes in trying to bribe our officers with about $5,000 for them to be released, and which definitely our officers refused, and also arrested him and added him to the 3 illegal immigrants. So currently, as we speak, they have been handed over to the Ghana Port Health Service at Aflao for them to go through the mandatory 14 days quarantine. And after that, knowing their status, they'll be handed over to the Ghana Immigration Service for prosecution. Now, we want to serve a stronger deterrent by prosecuting in court and seeking stiffer punishment to deter others from trying to engage in this illegal activity. So as we speak, they are under quarantine with the podcast at Aflao.
So you are no longer going to repatriate people who enter the country illegally like you used to do. This time you are going to arraign them.
Yes. Initially, when the order came, we were repatriated as a means of serving as a deterrent, so that people will not even have to travel from far places to try to enter Ghana through unapproved routes. And the second level of our strategy is now to seek for prosecution. And about a week or 2 ago, we had one against a Malian citizen who also entered illegally and was convicted to a fine of 24,000 Ghana cedis. So yes, definitely we're going to do that.
Now, so about a few weeks ago, we had a case of 20 people who were arrested. What is the latest on that situation? They were being quarantined to check their status. What is the result, and are they also going to be prosecuted, or this policy will not take a retrospective effect, as so to speak?
It depends upon the test results after the 14-day quarantine period, and also based on advice from our legal department. So yes, it's not about being retrospective, but then if their status shows that yes, they are negative, and advice is that yes, we should go ahead, then definitely the legal team will go ahead and prosecute them.
Mr. Makwata, thank you very much. But just before you go, will these officers who resisted a bribe also be promoted, like we saw in the other instance, to serve as motivation, like you said the last time?
Yes. Now with the 2 or 3 promotions or elevations that we have done, the result from the field shows that our officers are well motivated now. The morale is very high, and commitment to work or duty has also gone up. And it shows in this number of interceptions and seizures of drugs and all that. But that will be a determination for the Comptroller General and the Council to determine. But definitely, they will be recommended either way.
Thank you so much for your time. And Ms. Chief Superintendent Amakwata speaks for the Ghana Immigration Service. You're welcome back. This is Newsdesk. Now, today is World Menstrual Day, a day set aside to promote menstrual hygiene among women the world over. This year's commemoration is on the theme Periods in Pandemic. JoyNews editor Zolai, who is an ambassador for menstrual hygiene, joins us live via Zoom. We also have the executive director of Shalom Foundation, Ms. Shalom Lumo, who is also an advocate for menstrual hygiene. Thank you very much, Izzy, and also to you, Shalom. Now, I would like to start with you, Izzy. Hygiene, we are talking of period in pandemic. Are we in a crisis situation?
You can call it some sort of crisis because we're having to deal with COVID-19 and at the same time you are having to deal with menstrual hygiene. As you realize, it's actually a lot more difficult. It's actually difficult for people to get the basic, water and soap washing their hands. Washing their hands with the soap and the running water is already a challenge for many people. And here we have a situation where they have also having to deal with taking care of menstrual hygiene as well. So, and menstruation doesn't just have to do with washing, but it also has to do with the sanitary products that you need to make this possible. And it's a challenge for lots of people. If you look at how much it costs to get or buy one menstrual pad, and if you look at the rural folk and the communities that are less privileged, you realize that the cost, it takes a toll on them, on their finances, if they have to afford menstrual products. So we need to find a way of making it a lot more affordable for them. If it means they have to use reusable pads and the rest, we have to work out a way. Apart from everything else, it also has to do with education.
If you can just hold on.
A lot of them.
Israel, if you can just hold on for me. We'll come to the issue of affordability because I know that's a huge part of the campaign. But let me find out from Ms. Lumo how bad the situation is. You are a woman. Probably you understand this a lot more better. How bad is it in this pandemic?
Good afternoon. The issue here is that it's so bad to the extent, just like what Israel said, pads are expensive. Since this pandemic, a lot of things, prices have shot up. Yeah. So, and sanitary pads are not an exception of it. Pads are expensive, and even where to get it from? Most of these pharmacy shops, those are the places we buy the pads from, the pharmacy shops, the drug stores. Now, when you go there, most of the pharmacy shops, there is now a queue because they don't want the social distance. So you can just walk into the pharmacy shop anytime and get your pad and go anytime. Now there's a specific time that maybe when you go, they are serving people now one after the other. So if you used to spend 30 minutes in the pharmacy shop, now you are going to spend extra more minutes in the pharmacy shop. And it's so bad to the extent that pads that we used to buy at 6 cedis, 7 cedis is now 10 cedis, 12 cedis. So it's expensive. You are trying to prevent yourself from coronavirus, and you are also trying to get more money to buy expensive pads. And with the psychological aspect of it, there's this pandemic on our head, and we are thinking about it. And here lies the case: you're in your period, and you have a lot of mood swing, you are sick, your breath is saggy, and you are still thinking about how to get out of this with coronavirus issues on your head. So this pandemic is not just something light. And when we talk about the school children, if not because of coronavirus, Shalom World Foundation like this would have been some schools in some of the rural communities distributing pads. So those school children who may have access to free sanitary pads because of the pandemic, they will not be able to have it again. So we are all fighting that this crisis will leave us soon so that we can come back to our normal life, so that when you are managing your sanitary, your menstrual condition in this thing, you'll be able to get out of it easily.
Now, Israel, the bit about affordability now comes up very strongly, and that has been a part of the campaign. As we speak, I know that there's some 20% tax on sanitary pads. How far have we gone with getting government to remove that tax so that then it can be more affordable, very cheap for people who find it difficult to access it?
That conversation is still ongoing, and that conversation is very relevant. But for me, I actually feel that we should be looking at other ways, because if you reduce the menstrual pad to what, 2 cedis, there are people who still can't afford. So I would want to, and this is something I've been advocating, and thanks to the Girls Flow Free Foundation, which is a UK-based charity. They're trying to push as much as possible reusable pads. These reusable pads, if the girls get them, it's something they can use and wash. They have 2 of them. They can use and wash and use them probably over like a year. So for me, that's been the campaign for me. Reusable pads, which become more affordable, especially for people in rural communities where it will be difficult to actually access or find the pads to buy, and then the money to also pay for the pads to becomes another issue.
Okay, so we're looking at reusable pads with materials that are locally produced, so that even in the production we don't encounter challenges. I suppose that is one thing we should be looking at.
Certainly, that is something we should be looking at. But and then beyond that, you know, what COVID has done, or what COVID typically does, is to displace every other matter. So the COVID takes precedence over everything else. But that is the more reason why we need to highlight the issue of menstruation and menstrual hygiene, so that we can get people, a lot more people awake, a lot more people aware that this is what you're supposed to do. For most people, for a lot of people, they don't have the education that they require. If you happen to be in the city, you happen to have a mom who's enlightened, your mother is going to talk to you about menstruation. If you happen to have mothers who are enlightened, they'll talk to you about it. But a lot more people, a lot more girls are growing up without having the benefit of having people speak to them about menstruation. So when we have days like this, we get to propagate the message a lot further.
And on that education, though, Shalom, let me come to you. How are we doing as far as education is concerned, especially in the rural areas? We have a lot of these girls dealing with cramps that are not allowing them to go to school. There are also cultural issues as well as myths. What is your foundation doing in that regard?
Yeah, before I get to what my foundation is doing, you know, this myth surrounding menstruation alone is a big headache, that parents cannot even talk to their children, their adolescents, on how to manage themselves during menstruation, and teachers as well. So we need to demystify these taboos and misconceptions surrounding menstruation, so that the conversation, it can be very normal. People can talk about blood easily. People can talk about menstruation easily. And what we are doing is that we are collaborating with the teachers that, look, these girls, you have access to them 24 hours. They come to school from Monday to Friday. Menstruation issues should be very, very normal. People should be able to talk about menstruation. And when we are distributing pads in the schools, what we do is that when we are talking about menstrual hygiene, we talk to both boys and girls, because we understand that all of them have a role to play in menstrual hygiene. When the boys are aware of what the girls are going through, they will be able to help them, protect them. And when a girl stays in school, the boy will understand the kind of trauma the girl is going through. So he's not going to be making mockery of them, laughing at them, giving them names and codes. So what we are doing, we are educating both boys and girls on menstrual hygiene. And what we even did in one of the villages was that when we're distributing the pads, we made sure that we give the pads to the boys to distribute among the girls, so that it can be something that is normal. Menstruation should be normal. Talking about blood should be normal. Teachers should talk about it normal. Parents should talk about it normal. Churches should be able to talk about blood. They should be able to talk about menstruation. They should be able to have sessions with the church where they can educate both parents, teachers, the whole congregation on how to manage their menstrual hygiene, how to make sure that girls will be safe during their menstruation. And what we also want the government to do is that Israel was talking about reusable parts. Yeah. It may be good in a way, but in the communities where they don't have access to good water, how do they wash those parts? And where do they even dry them? So we want the tax totally taken off, because when the parts are cheaper, organizations who want to share or distribute parts, if they use 5 cedi to buy one part, now they can use 5 cedi to buy 2 parts. So parts should be more available and it should be accessible. Then the other thing we are not even talking about is the gender-specific washrooms in the schools, the basic schools. When these children go to school, are their washrooms friendly for the girls? When they are menstruating, do they have that privacy to be able to change their parts? Are the washrooms gender specific, or is just the 2 rooms that then there's one inscription on one, this is for boys, this is for girls, that's all? No. Do they have soaps available? Do they have water available? Government school building plans, are the washrooms gender specific? Do they have water and soap? So these are some of the conversations we need to be having so that people can be enlightened on the whole menstrual hygiene issue. Then we know how to take it from there. Then the last thing is we have to empower the local entrepreneurs so that we can start producing sanitary pads locally in Ghana. There was these 2 ladies from Tech who came up with organic menstrual pads from banana stem.
Yeah, they won the presidential challenge and were given some amount of money to start a business. I think it will be good to follow up on them.
Yes, so that we can have parts locally produced in Ghana, then it will be accessible. We want, in the next decade, we want to have sanitary pads everywhere. It should be very accessible. It should be in the schools. It should be part of government policy. That menstrual hygiene should be part of government policy. Now, GES, yesterday I saw they were circulating some flyers on, and they must be recommended, because last year we didn't see that. Information, access to information. There should be a unit in every school that when girls are menstruating, they can go to that unit and have access to information. When you have menstrual cramps, how do you deal with it? We have exercises that you can actually engage in that can help you ease your
education in order to get our girls very equipped and in the position to deal with this. Shalom, thank you very much for joining us. Let me take final words from you, Israel. Fortunately, the issue of water perhaps will be dealt with as we look at measures to keep our schools safe. As far as COVID-19 is concerned, definitely water should be in the loop because we need to wash our hands and all of that. But what are some of the other strategies we can adapt to move this forward?
I think for me, critically, we need to continue having these conversations. The more we talk about these things, the more we demystify the subjects, and the more we get people enlightened about it, especially the young girls who don't have any support and who don't have anybody to speak with them about menstruation. But yes, the teachers to take up this job and the mandates and try and educate people, and we should keep the conversation going as we're having this conversation right now. In fact, in the next 1 hour, there's a live online panel conversation that I'm going to be part of. We're bringing men together, and we call it the men's world. It's trying to work on play on menstruation and men. And so I'm inviting as many people as possible. You can hook me up on my Facebook page. You see the flyer there. And join, let's have an interesting conversation.
And that would be very fantastic as we push this campaign. But just finally, a quick one, Israel. In your ambassadorial work, what are some of the myths that you have heard that are fascinating, if you want, or shocking as far as menstrual hygiene is concerned?
Well, myths such as if you're menstruating, you can't cook. You shouldn't go near And I find that quite shocking because, you know, it's a natural phenomenon. And all our women have to go through it. In fact, if you're a woman and you're not menstruating, then you can't expect that you can reproduce or give birth. It is important that we send the message out there and get people to appreciate that menstruation is a natural phenomenon. It's part of life. And without menstruation, I wouldn't have come into this world. And without menstruation, you wouldn't have come into this world.
Easy, thank you very much. Israel Ai is an editor here. We're also joined by Shalom Lumo, who is with an NGO championing this cause. It's World Menstrual Hygiene Day. Let's get our girls in the position to fight this and also be in a position to contribute effectively to society. We're taking a break to bring you business. We'll hear from the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry as they hint of plans to tap into the 3 billion cedi syndicated fund to rescue large industries. Stay with us.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darrell Kwao. The Chamber of Commerce and Industry has hinted of plans to tap into the 3 billion cedi syndicated fund for large industries. The fund, put together by the Ghana Association of Bankers, is originally meant for the pharmaceutical industry in response to government's directive to prop up measures to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, President of the Chamber, Nana P.J. Dankwaso, the first, addressing business owners at a virtual seminar, also pointed out other ways they are hoping to deal with the effects of COVID-19.
We are looking at the short-term, medium-term, and long-term effects. The Chamber, through this, has come out with a business school, and of which this, what we are doing now, is part of it, to make sure we educate our people. Out of the discussions, it has also come out that we need to consume made in Ghana goods, patronize made in Ghana goods, so that we'll remain competitive and we'll be able to also support the economy when we do that. In actual fact, during this pandemic, most of the masks that we are using are produced locally. The sanitizers and other PPEs. We had opportunity to visit some of the companies at Ejabeng, and it will interest you to know that most of the things that are sent to most of the companies in America, for example, are in Ghana. One of the companies employs close to about 3,000 people. And the other, within that same enclave, employs about 1,600, you know, and they produce to companies like Amazon and others. So we are not doing bad, but we can do more than what we are doing. And on that, we want to also mention that research and development is key, and that there are a lot of research work that has been done, and we have put them in shelves. This is the time for us to use them.
Now, Ghana could soon be removed from the list of countries with serious lapses when it comes to money laundering and terrorism financing. This is because the Financial Intelligence Center is currently implementing measures that force the European Union to review its recent warning about the country and decision to scrutinize financial transactions from Ghana. There is more in the following report.
According to the Financial Intelligence Center, it is already working with the globally recognized body that supervises the fight against money laundering to protect the country against these practices. According to sources close to the center, it is currently implementing an action plan which would see Ghana classified as a fully compliant country when it comes to having the right systems against money laundering and terrorism financing. Joy Business understands that at the recent review meeting in France, Ghana was given high praise over how it has implemented its action plan. This should mean that before December this year, Ghana may be recognized as an anti-money laundering compliant country. We are learning that the Financial Intelligence Center is currently working with all the relevant government agencies in the country to deal with all these challenges when it comes to money laundering and terrorism financing. The European Union recently recently in a statement announced that it will blacklist Ghana by October this year if the country does not take measures to address challenges regarding deficiencies giving way to money laundering. The Finance Ministry, on the other hand, has described the action by the European Union as unfortunate. This is because steps are being taken to deal with all these problems identified. Information being gathered indicates that the country has filed an official protest at the European Union headquarters in Brussels. The warning from the European Union could mean that there would be serious security scrutiny anytime a bank or business from Ghana wants to carry out any transaction with their counterparts in the European Union.
And that's all in business for now. The news continues after this break.